And I'm actually the father of Afformations, not affirmations. Just to let you know, we're using a new word here. It's Afformations, Afformations. That's something I invented 30 years ago. It's a methodology of using empowering questions rather than statements. As a keynote speaker and an executive coach, I do presentations for teams, companies, organizations all across the country and around the world. And everybody that I've ever met or spoken to has heard about affirmations because that's what we've been taught for decades. Back in 1997, I invented this methodology called Afformations, and it's about using the embedded presupposition factor of the brain, which is just a fancy way of saying that when you ask an empowering question, your brain searches for the answer. So instead of saying something like, I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful, and your brain goes, no, you're not, right? I invented instead the process of Afformations, which is asking empowering questions like, why am I so happy? Why am I so successful? Why am I feeling so great today? Now, when you ask an empowering question, what it does is it immediately changes the subconscious thought patterns in your brain. And this is something I've been teaching my clients for over 30 years. And so we have so many stories of people who have made more money and started their business, grow their business. I had one client who went from $60,000 in debt to a six-figure income in less than 12 weeks. And many, many stories like that. So that's how powerful my Afformations method is. But hey, if you like affirmations, you can keep using them. But for those people who are frustrated with their old way, the affirmation way, you can always try the new way, which is Afformations. I created something that I call the power habit system, the power habits of unconsciously successful people, because I realized that highly successful people, yes, they're doing these conscious habits, but it's just like the iceberg principle. 10% is visible above the surface, 90% is below the surface of consciousness. They don't even know they're doing it. One of the unconscious habits that highly successful people do is, ironically, they are using my Afformations method without even knowing it. They're asking empowering questions like, why can't I do it? Why am I able to do this? Why am I so lucky? And they're asking these questions without even knowing it, and therefore they can never teach it to you. Yes, you got to have the conscious habits. You got to do everything that people talk about, but it's also important to understand what are you doing unconsciously to hold yourself back from the success you're capable of. One of my clients said that by not having these habits in place, it was costing him $1 million, and he decided to hire me. I made him $1.8 million in 10 months just by putting these habits in place. Well, when we're talking about my Afformations method, we are looking at specific formulation of empowering questions. There are, of course, many, many different types of empowering questions, but my Afformations method deals with a specific formulation. So as I mentioned, growing up poor, I had scarcity thinking. It took me years and years and years to realize, number one, that I was doing that. Number two, how to break out of that. So when I discovered Afformations in 1997, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This is so powerful, and yet it's so simple. Because I've been thinking really very disempowering thoughts my whole life. Like, why am I so stupid? Why can't I do anything right? Why does nothing ever work out for me? And the point is, because of the embedded presupposition factor of the brain, you're going to find the answer to those questions. And so when I flipped the script and I said, why am I so smart? Why am I doing the right thing? Why am I in the right place at the right time? Then I started to actually have those things happen. So when you're looking at those, one of the things I like to do with my clients is look at where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, right? Because there are always trends that are happening. The economies go up and down and so forth. And as Warren Buffett has famously said, you don't get to see who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. So for the last few years, online business, where we've been, online business has been really great, and I have an online business. I have one for 30 years now. And yeah, it's great, because people are staying home. They didn't have anything to do, right? Well, now that the pandemic's over, that's where we're at. And people are they're taking a lot more time to make decisions. Before it was a lot of impulse buying. I'm not saying people don't do that. Of course they do, but they're taking a lot more time. And where we're going is you really need a lot more touch points, for those people who are in the service industry or in the expert industry. You're going to need a lot more touch points to really have people trust you. Why? Because, of course, so many of us have been ripped off by the gurus, right? I paid them over $500,000 only to find out there's no there, right? They can't use the paper bag. And so the point is, people, because trust is so low, you have to really do a lot more work, frankly, than we ever had to earn people's trust. And money follows trust. So that's really the kind of questions and the kind of formulation that I help my clients with. It's very, very common. It's pretty obvious just mathematically that more people are in poverty than have a lot of money. I mean, that's just math on planet Earth right now. And so by far, that's the majority of humans. So the point is, this is something that I help my clients with all the time. One of the most important things that you can do is surround yourself with people who believe in you. I'm sure we've all heard that phrase that we are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Well, the problem is one of them is you. And so the point is, you're probably beating yourself to a pulp every single day. So what we have to do is we have to surround ourselves with people who do believe in us. And there's a great example of this. One of my clients, who is, you mentioned earlier that I help people make more in 12 weeks than they did in the last 12 months. We have a program called the 12-week breakthrough for that very reason. And one of my clients named Catherine, she's a business owner in Pennsylvania, and she was doing well. She was doing six figures in her business, but she just kept hitting that ceiling, couldn't break through. And so she, was doing the program. We got through it. In week 5, she sent me an email and she said, "No, I just want you to know something. I just raised $185,000 today in one day because of what you taught me." And she said, and this was the best part of what she wrote. She said, "Because you believed in me, now I believe in me again. And that is the most valuable thing that you could have given me." So I'm like, wow, that is so powerful. One of the ways that I do it is by stories and examples. You notice I've been giving a lot of stories and examples in this interview. And one of the things that I talk about in my new book, like Seven Figure Expert or the Seven Figure Machine, is how your life can change in just 12 weeks. And in the middle of the pandemic of November in 2020, I had a vision that we were supposed to move, my wife and I. We were in a nice house, there was nothing wrong with it. And I just had this vision that said we're supposed to move. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? But I've learned enough that I need to listen to those inner promptings, right? So I got up, I started searching on the internet, and I found this incredible home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And they just had a price drop, and there's an open house tomorrow. And I'm like, honey, you want to go see a house? So she said, sure. We drove up to the house. We were riding up the driveway here, and she turns to me, she says, "I'm packing tonight." 84 days later, we moved into this house, our dream home. It's a 6,000 square foot mansion on a hill. And because of what I teach my clients and all the frameworks and formulas that I use, I've been able to actually pay off the mortgage of this house 27 years early. So that's an example of when you listen to your inner promptings, even though it didn't make any logical sense, right? It's like, we don't need to move. What's the problem here? But I'm like, well, there's something there. And if I wouldn't have taken that action, we wouldn't be in this incredible home. And what's so great about this home, there's so many things great about it, but one is we have a koi pond in the backyard. It's got waterfalls and there's like 70 fish back there. And my wife and I, we just love to just stop working, shut the computer off, sit in the backyard, listen to the birds, watch the fish. These are the kind of things that, yes, you can't say money can't buy it, because money bought this, but it's still something that is greater than money. And that's really what abundance means to me.